Hi, this is Terry. Welcome to Snowdrops Sunsets. I'm doing a video today around propaganda and just some of the aspects of behaviour I've seen playing out. Mainly, I suppose, on social media. I haven't seen it as much in real life, but because we've been stuck indoors, right? So everything's been amplified through this filter of online, and that's about all my experiences coming from. But I had an interaction online that amplified some emotions in me, and I did a video about it that was censored on YouTube, was taken off because it didn't meet the guidelines. And even that in itself is like, you know, it really did ground and bring the reality of our situation to me. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do another video on that thread because I can't and not be censored. But what I can do is do a video about what I know and why it's so important we have these conversations that I'm trying to have, or was trying to have, that might potentially not be coming across in a well-received way, or is being censored because of the guidelines around the propaganda campaign I'm about to talk about. So just to give you a little bit of a background on me, why I consider myself an expert in this. I don't really like using words like expert in that because okay, we just validate each other that way, I suppose. But I'm degree trained in graphic design. I studied graphic design for 5 years, and well, longer really. But that's what I did my higher and further education in. That's what I did my degree in. I also wrote my dissertation on "Can you judge a book by its cover?", which was an exploration into propaganda and the manipulation that can be used through print media. So I delved into that subject for 3 or 4 months. And when I delved pretty intensely. At the time I found it really fascinating because I thought it was like a retrospective. And now when I'm realising, like, I wish I'd kept it. I don't even think I have the dissertation. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what I studied then, I can see playing out on a much larger and much more proficient scale than what I studied. Mainly what I was studying in particular was Nazi Germany and their propaganda campaign, our own UK propaganda campaign around World War II, and advertise, and how those how that information and the success of them campaigns, because let's face it, they were very successful campaigns that motivated a lot of people to war, how those successful campaigns were then used to be filtered into the advertising industry. It was ultimately writing this dissertation that made me shift my focus, because I was adamant I wanted to be a graphic designer and work in advertising. It was writing that dissertation that shifted my focus completely. I was like, I can't do that because I know what it is now. I knew what it is. I'd had an inkling before what advertising is, but when you know what it really is, it's, well, it was horrifying for me anyway. Advertising is a very manipulative tool, and it manipulates us based on our primal, subconscious, emotional and mental, emotional needs and drives, and it bypasses our logical mind, and it bypasses any sort of reason we can put to argue it. That's why advertising is so powerful, because it literally taps into a real primal and subconscious drive in us. So what I want to say is that through the, and then after that, so I did shift my focus then from graphic design. I've done graphic design work, but I've never worked as a graphic designer for a company or anything like that. The only graphic design work I've done is freelance or as part of my own, the other roles that I've done in my own self-employment or working for other voluntary organisations or running other businesses. That's the only time I've actually put it into practice. And actually I've always tried not to use those methods that I learned of fear-mongering and negative manipulation to drive people to action. So after I studied that, I worked as a photographer, and I had a bit of a broad experience as a photographer. I've always worked with people, so I did portraiture, which meant I was around a lot of people, a lot of time, a lot of different people. And I also, the part side of that is I worked within, I did do some advertising and commercial photography, I did some fashion and editorial photography, and I did some behind the scenes photography at events for media companies and for film, and I worked for a TV production company for a while. So this is all in all about 15 years of my life, from the age of 16 to 33, so however long that is, do the math. I worked as a photographer and studied graphic design and worked in the media manipulation industry. I consider myself an expert on propaganda. And my own personal reasons, again, for leaving photography, I mean, they were intertwined, but it was that realisation that still I'm being part of a massive manipulation campaign. Like, I used to have a colleague that worked, and a friend, I was going to say friend, he was a friend and colleague, who worked at a photography studio, and he used to say, excuse his French, you can't make shit look like ice cream. Actually you can. He was a mediocre editor. I'm kidding, Tom was a really good editor. But he did used to say that, well, you can't, he was Scottish, you can't make shit look like ice cream. He's going to hear that accent, that was really bad, but you can. And all my experience in photography, what I realised is, yes, you can make shit look like ice cream, and you can fake anything via the digital world, anything. You just need to look at the quality of filmmaking we can do now to see how easy it is just to create whole worlds, whole scenarios. There's plenty of willing actors and there's plenty of people that will be paid to be part of this, and they have to sign agreements and things that they can't speak about what they're doing. The media, the news channels, the media production companies are propaganda machines. They are private companies with their own agenda. There is nothing about them that is, I want to say legitimate, but I don't know if that's the right word. There's nothing about them that cares about you, cares about your family, cares about your well-being. They are profit-making, mass manipulation machines that will do anything to push their agenda, and their agenda generally is to make money, and they want to make money by keeping us stuck in a consumer-based mindset, which is a fear, scarcity-based mindset. So pretty much every single thing you watch on the TV, and that's why films are now so full of the same shit, and the news, oh my god, don't get us started on the news. The news is not news. Anyway, it's all negative. It's all to make you feel scared. It's all to make you feel shit about yourself. It's all to make you feel disconnected from other people, to be wary of other people, and to feel like you're alone. And in order to fill that feeling, that primal feeling of separateness and fear, we consume. And that is essentially how the media industry works. Now, obviously there's a massive link of a web of all of this, and yes, the government is another private company that is manipulating us, and they use the media machine to manipulate us. I don't want to get into government because I'm frankly not an expert, I suppose, by most standards, but I have then, after my photography career, I started a community interest company, and that meant that I was working again with lots of people in the public, lots of experiences of people with very varied opinions, ideas, lifestyles, you know, all individuals, different health problems, different stories. Like, I met a lot of different kind of people, and I'm talking like people from really rich, powerful people in, you know, London, who actually have enough power to make decisions, and you know, work in really powerful positions, to, you know, just the people that live down my street that are canny people but are with pretty serious mental health problems, or suffering with addiction, or have physical disabilities, whatever. I'm just saying, I speak to a lot of people in my life. And when I worked for that community interest company, I was very passionate about it. I started it, I was a founder member, I started it because I really wanted to It was based around community and food and yeah, linking them things together. But in that role, it meant I had to get involved with local politics. I had to get involved with local council. It meant I sat through many different meetings with big organisations and small grassroots organisations. And so I have another element and level of experience of that layer of control. And again, after 5-6 years of work that, I mean, it was only last year, because of this pandemic station, I just had to say no. It was too little, too late, and actually the machine crushed us. But that's a different story. But I just mean that's added to my experience, that I understand how then the systems of control and power work on even on like a smaller, more local, like county-wide level. And I was really into politics for a while. I did look at, like, you know, a lot on the national level. I was consider myself an activist, and I spent a lot of time actively opposing our governments. So I've done a wad of research on this field, like, so, you know, and I suppose what I'm getting at is the issue that I've found. One is when I'm trying to voice concerns, it's like, well, because I'm not qualified, I'm invalid. Because I have a different opinion to the mainstream, it's nonsense and I'm ignorant. I would even be called brainless, dangerous. And my issue being, I don't care what people think about us, I'm speaking my truth. You ain't going to shut me up. Another element to it, which is that I personally had to really overcome mental prison of grooming and abuse, and I, on a personal level, looking at the dynamics and relationships, really understand how power works, how power structures work. I've done training and all this and stuff as well. Like, I'm not plucking this stuff out of thin air. You know, and understand power dynamics and how we can be manipulated and controlled by that. And one of the biggest causes, well, the biggest cause of genocide are governments, but it's dehumanisation, and we dehumanise each other by invalidating each other, and we generally do that by putting ourselves in a position of power or authority or better than, and then imposing that somebody else is not worthy or is not the same level as us. Now, for example, obviously in Nazi Germany, the Jews were persecuted, and when you look at, one of the questions that I thought a lot in the past was, how could they do it? How could so many millions of people in the German population be manipulated to turn against their neighbours, their colleagues, their friends? Like, how? I wish I'd never asked that question, because I feel like we're literally watching it, witnessing, playing out. And just pausing the question, like, just imagine, what do you think, like, a Jewish member of the community would sound like trying to counteract the Nazi propaganda campaign and the science that's saying that they are less than, or that Jews have done this, and Jews have done that, and Jews are bad. Like, I'm simplifying it, obviously, but the Jews would have been like, well, that's not true because of this, and that's not true. But no, the narrative is the narrative. They would have sounded pretty crazy, I think, towards the end, before apathy set in. They potentially would have went into hiding, but there would have been people that was actively, you know, I'm sure activists around it, and I know there would have been, you know, I'm not just saying that all Germans wouldn't have been, but yeah. What Germany did was use, you know, the blonde hair, blue eye kind of ideal as better than, and what we're currently doing is using science, intelligence, logic as better than. And this is what's really scary, because just because somebody disagrees with you does not mean that they're less than you. Just because somebody has a different opinion does not mean they're wrong, does not mean they're bad, does not mean they're stupid. And even if they are, they still have a right to exist. And what's happening is we're being divided so much that we're dehumanising each other, especially in this extra layer of social media and the propaganda, the digital screen, where you're not actually seeing it at somebody's face. You're not actually physically in their sphere so you can pick up their energy and feel what they're saying. We've been so separated and divided that it's really easy for us to dehumanize each other and be like, you're just wrong. And because we can literally just be so separated and not actually see the consequences of that, it's going to be disastrous. Sorry, I'm laughing. That laugh is, it's a defense mechanism, right? Because regardless of whether or not the campaign or the strategy, I'm very careful about my words because this is what could get me censored. The current strategy that's being used to counteract the global situation is what's causing the rift. And the reason I would say a lot of people don't trust the strategy is because it's being pushed through a very, very thick, hard and fast propaganda campaign. And, you know, don't trust somebody who says, just me, do this. No, don't. And actually what that campaign is saying is it doesn't matter what you want to do with your body, it doesn't matter what you want to do, what your opinion is, this is what's best and you will do it. And if you don't do it, then you're stupid, invalid, ignorant and actually deadly. So they're now putting the weight of anybody who is harmed by not following that strategy on individuals and calling them dangerous. Now, we don't know, we've got no idea, can have no idea whether that strategy is going to be successful or not until it's played out. My concern is that it doesn't matter, because regardless, either whether that strategy is beneficial and it stops the situation, the pandemic situation, there's going to be a group of people that have chosen, or as long as they still have the choice, not to have that. The question is then going to be, what do we do with those people? And like in Nazi Germany, I believe those people are going to be marked, as in they're going to be somehow separated so you can see. So that means, like in Nazi Germany, there was the gold star, right, to mark Jews. This whole idea of that you need a certain kind of passport to get around, to give you legitimacy to move around, that tells me that people are going to be marked, they're going to be separated, and they're going to be limited. That either means that they're going to be detained and their freedoms are going to be limited, like in concentration camps, detention centre style. Detention centres exist in the world, in the UK right now. People are locked up against their will. And that only leads to the next level, which is, what if they still don't comply? Then, oh well, we'll just get rid of them because they're dangerous people, right? So the other thread is, what if all these people that are stressing concerns, that have legitimate concerns and fears around this strategy, what if they're right? Because there is a chance they're right. And actually there's something about that strategy that's flawed and it's going to harm people. And 8% of the world's population have followed that strategy. That's going to cause massive harm. We're in a really difficult situation, and divisiveness is not going to help us. It's not about, for me, it's not about right or wrong. It's about seeing our behaviour and really not buying into it, not taking on that attitude of separateness, and not invalidating other people. I mean, my personal reasons for questioning strategy, and I think why a lot of people just generally have distrust, like I say, one is because it's been pushed with such a thick propaganda campaign. And the other thing is, what science tends to do is put things in boxes, tries to contain things, or pull a single thread out and try and find the truth in that. And there's legitimacy in that. We've understood a lot about things like that. But it's like tearing apart a machine and going, oh, well, that's how it works. Well, it's not true. We're not single threads. We're not boxes. If we stick with a thread, we're not single threads. Like, you know, you're putting a person in a box or a thread around, oh, well, you're this. You're an anti-vaxxer. Which I'm not personally. Well, anyway, I'm not going to go on that route, but there's no point, because we're actually balls of wool, and there's lots of entangled threads that are our truth, and you can just pull one thread out and say that that's true, but it's ignoring the rest of the tangled web. And actually, that's the issue, is that there's so much science. There's always science to contradict other science, and there's always other threads connected to that thread. So for example, this strategy is a profit-making strategy. If it was a non-profit strategy, excuse me, if it was a non-profit strategy that was being offered freely and without any coercion, I'm sure people wouldn't have the concerns and objections that they have. It's the way it's being pushed upon us. It's the enforcement aspect of it, and then it's all these other threads that have caused this to happen that's being ignored. So yes, this one strand may well be true, but there's many other truths attached to it that need to be considered. And for me, when you look at what's happening in the world, you know, science says a lot of things is right or fine or good even, when it's not, you know, taken on the whole. So for example, science says, oh, it's fine to put this amount of poison in food or water in the air, and then there's a whole other realm of science that goes, there's a lot of sick people. We'll have to find out what makes them sick. Well, maybe it's all the science that says it's fine to poison them. Yeah, like maybe if we weren't following this, that oh, it's fine to put this poison level of poisoning because it's only a small level of poison, we wouldn't have so many sick people here that then needs more science and more artificial things to try and treat. You know, I am a holistic, nature-based practitioner now, and I understand how interconnected everything is, and I personally just think as humans we are these amazing, well-designed machines that have the ability to self-regulate. We have our own immune systems, and if given the right, you know, fuel resources going in, we'll get optimal results out. And that's just my opinion on it, and I don't want to put anything that is artificial, anything that is I don't consider natural, from a natural source, into my body as much as possible. And the idea that that's going to be forced upon us is really quite scary. Sorry, that's the postman and my dog. I think that's all I want to say, actually. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you listening. Like I say, I think it's such a vital discussion that we'll have. And for me, it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about seeing the behaviour, the dehumanising behaviour, and stopping it. We just have to stop it. We have to stop it now before it gets too crazy and out of control. People have the right to their own bodies, minds, opinions, and if we start messing with that and taking that away, it leads to really horrible, scary consequences. It always has done in the past. And I just think that needs to be a fundamental truth that we can all agree, that we're all individuals, we all have valid experiences in ourselves, and other people don't have the right to validate or invalidate our experience, or take control over our bodies. That is our own individual autonomy. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel and share, and thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. Bye.